Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to TRS Live with your hosts Brian Keller, Matt Schrotz, and Zach Huffman, presented by The Real Shot.
I'ma do this here forever.
EQ.
Forever.
Triumph.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever. I'ma do this here forever. All you haters better get comfy. This the day you've been waiting on. Y'all road is finna get bumpy. This the track I'm making my statement on. I ain't going nowhere. This the place that I'm making home. I'll do this shit forever. Hit the gas and I'm taking off. Ow. I was born with passion. My job is never ending and my hustle's everlasting. No matter what, I'm gon' ball, even with my back to the wall. And the best part is that this is the beginning. I'ma do this here forever. Forever.
One.
I can't see anything on this one.
I know, but after 1 is 0.
I know,
that
but
means you're live.
I just need to see that we're live on there.
That means you're live.
Hey. Intro the show then, Brian. Just intro it. Come on. Why do I got to intro it all the time?
I think the intro should have been, I always take my 5 hour energy just in time so it kicks in right when the show starts.
No, it's either my mountain ops or my wilderness athlete, whatever one I have it today. Well, good morning, everybody. It is it Wednesday today?
Yep.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Man, this week is just not going by fast enough.
That's because you're stuck inside because it's 1 billion degrees outside.
It is hot outside. Too. Yeah.
Friday's supposed to be
98.
The highest dew points in history in Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
80-something, which has only happened 10 times in the last 100 years.
Ugh.
Really?
Yeah.
Wealth of knowledge from John. Well, anyways, we'll introduce our guest right away. We're talking the Cuddeback system with the Cuddelinks. So Cuddeback cameras with the Cuddelink system, I should have said. We have John Volkman, our rep for Cuddeback, and we have Dan Schultz with you're with Cuddeback directly, right?
Absolutely, yep.
So we got these guys in here. They are going to break the whole process down from what you need to have, how it all the setup is. I mean, we don't have to get into crazy setup. There's plenty of good videos that Cuddeback produced out there.
And the setup's super easy.
It is. Brian, like John was talking about just before we went on here, you were one of the foremost guys, not to say besides Cuddeback guys, I mean, you had the 16 for the first guy through the Real Shot.
15, yeah.
15. So you've been running them, for 3 years now?
Yep, 3 years.
And you've had really good success with
I
them.
love
I mean,
them.
trial and error with some of the new systems that when they first came out, just like any electronic. I mean, but now you've been having great success, and you're in a kind of a dead zone for cell reception.
Yeah,
anyways.
there's 0 cell reception up there. It's terrible. So it's awesome.
If you can get it to work up there, it should work for 99.9% of the people anywhere. I mean, so.
Well, and you saw my place. I took you up there.
Yeah.
For those cameras to go from all the way to the back, all the way to my cabin, coming through the swamps and stuff.
Cedars and all kinds
Yeah.
of crazy
yeah.
stuff.
It's impressive how well they work.
Right. Well, the one that always got me, and the one that I always remember when you were first setting your system up, you had mentioned you had one kind of shooting up a hill.
Yep.
To connect on one of the 100 yards on the top side of the hill to continue.
Well, and
to
you've
train.
got to be a little smart. Like I've got 320 acres, so I've got it. It's kind of an L shape, how my 40s line up. So you can't just expect it to do things that it just can't do.
Yep.
So there's a couple cameras I have that aren't necessarily maybe exactly where I'd want them, but it's a great leapfrog spot.
Right.
To get that camera to the front or up the ridge, down the ridge, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's really nothing you can't do. You got to have a little bit of
Common
thought
sense.
process through it.
With
yeah.
it. Yep.
But if you think it through, whether you're dealing with the hills or some of that stuff.
Well, and what I did with mine is getting through the cedar swamp's a big deal, right?
Yep.
Like getting through. Well, there's a road that I have through that I just put a mock scrape there. So that camera, I just put a mock scrape there. Not necessarily, but now the deer are actually using that corridor a little more because of the fact that I had to have the camera here. So I put a mock scrape there just because why not? You know what I mean?
Right.
And now that kind of just naturally turned into more of a deer location. So
Right. So, Dan, why don't you kind of, for those who aren't familiar with, you might be living under a rock if you don't know about the Cuddelink system, break it down for what it's all about and, just get us started with the basics of it.
Sure, happy to do that. So really the system works in two ways that you can utilize the system, right? So Brian's using it in a non-cellular format. So, and that was really the starting process 3 years ago when it came out. The idea was that to keep people from having to go in and bother the deer and to have to spend all that time checking trail cams, the home camera, which any camera can be a home, or we have some devices that for one reason or another you might pick a home device. But the reality is that the remote cameras send the pictures to the home. The guy pulls the one single SD card. So like I said, he doesn't have to go through the property, messing up the deer, educating the deer, all that. That was how it originally started. Now, since then, we've upgraded it further by coming out with this cellular technology. And so it just takes it one step further. Now all the cameras go to that home cell device, and then that's going to email or text you the pictures. So instead of even having to go pull any card, I can have that just, and it's just, the benefit of that would be the timeliness, right? So you're going to get that without getting that daily information coming through on your phone, I can tell quickly that, hey, the deer are really active in this stretch of time or whatever the case is. Whereas you can do that from pulling an SD card. It just takes a little bit more work for you to kind of keep track of what's happening, right?
And then that's one cell plan too, correct?
Right. So then, and that's really when you keep the benefit of not bothering the deer, but what you get is you have one cell plan. So anybody else that's got multiple cameras and they want to do it cellularly, they got to go out and buy multiple cell plans. That starts getting expensive.
Right.
In our case, you can have up to 15 other cameras sending back to that. You have one cell plan. We have a variety of cell plans to address how many pictures and whatever the guy's network is. They start at $10 a month. And from there, the other benefit is that, just like Brian said, you're going to have places in swamp. So on anyone's given property, he may have one place where you can get cell coverage, but you have a whole bunch of places you can't. And in our competitors, not knocking anybody, but in that scenario, they're not going to be able to put the camera there and get the pictures, obviously. In our case, as long as you get that cellular device connected and you link those other cameras via the Cuddelink network, now we're getting the pictures from the swamp and the places where we don't. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, you know?
And we all have those one favorite spot, like, okay, here it is November 1st or whatever it may be. This is my rut stand, but until the wind is right, I'm not going in there until the conditions are right. But you can have your cameras kind of overlooking that spot, and if you check it, and all of a sudden now there's your big deer showing up or whatever it may be. Now if the wind sets up right and everything like that, now it's time to move in on that spot and make it happen. Well, you were saying up by your place, you were able, not you, but your neighbor, and you were
I was waiting to tell those stories. We've shot 2 giant deer with this system. Specifically because of the Cuddelink system.
Yeah, and we're definitely get multiple reports of that kind of.
And the big thing was, so every morning, this is 2 of them now. One was 135, 140 inch 8-pointer, and then just last year.
Let's have a moment of silence.
My neighbor shot this 165 inch we called Captain Hook, right?
Yeah.
Well, we work back and forth really close, so I was just joking, but. Because actually the big 8 I shot because he was helping me out, and then he shot that big one last year because every morning we saw the deer like twice on Puff, right?
Yeah.
And checked the camera, and every night I'd pull the card in the morning while we're drinking coffee, and I'd text him like, here's where he was. This is where he was, like literally like 3 hours ago. He was right there, right? So we actually kept triangulating that deer every day based on where he was moving.
Sure.
And ultimately, thank you. Ultimately, I was missing looking at your picture.
I know.
Ultimately, he ended up getting them. I think it was the Thursday or Friday of gun season. It took us that long because that deer it was a 5.5-year-old deer, and they're smart, right?
That's the thing, right? Those big bucks, and that's what the guys don't, I think, understand all the time is that, cameras can kill you because they either want to keep, they kind of see the pictures and then they're excited, so then they go in there more,
right?
But then they're killing. And which deer are going to get educated?
Right.
The big ones,
you can't educate a 5-year-old whitetail because if you educated him, it's over.
Done,
right?
Yeah.
It's over, right? Like you got one shot, maybe. If he's during a rut, you got that little bit of a, they're kind of stupid, but.
But even though they're rut sick, they still come through, and I've had it in that situation where maybe it ain't that buck that's unaware, but all those does that you've educated in the process.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we're all
just
hunters.
stinking the place up too.
Oh yeah, we're all hunters, and it takes one mature doe to blow your spot, and then when she comes through the woods, she's always just uncautious.
Every year, what's the best hunt in that stand?
First
sit.
First
I mean,
one,
it's
right?
guaranteed.
That's just the
first
way it
one,
is. The
always.
first time you sit's always the best hunt.
Well, I mean, it was 3 years ago on opening weekend. You know, I went into one of my spots, and I was like, that's when the doe tags were goofy like that. Now I know this isn't a giant buck story, but
it doesn't matter.
First doe coming out of the bedding area, here you got 5-6 does, and all of a sudden they get downwind and they kind of meander off, but then one just blows. I'm like, oh, you son of a gun. Well, she got downwind. Well, then the next night I go back in that same spot, set up perfect, like the wind's in my favor, but once they get beyond me, sure enough, she comes out 100 yards, 50 yards, and she just stops. And she just looks around. And she didn't see me or anything. The wind is still in my favor, but she knew right away, like yesterday something wasn't right here.
Yeah, you conditioned her already.
Oh, yeah.
One hunt.
One hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, think about that. Now you're chasing a 150-inch 5-year-old, and he's dumb to the area, but all of a sudden that you educated that one doe, or a doe group, let's say, and now your hunt might be ruined right away.
You get this deer that are alert. It's as we travel to shows or whatever, you'll hear a lot from guys that'll say, I'm just not even putting out cameras.
Right.
Or there'll be guys that, they're trying to sneak in or whatever. So forget that, right? Just go with the Cuddeback system, and then you get the best of both worlds. You can put it out there, but you're not bothering anything, but you're getting the intel. Because obviously to not have cameras, it's questionable on whether that helps you, right? Because you're having a hard time getting a strategy.
Inventory-wise,
sure.
Well, what you've
it's
got.
not as fun.
It's
well,
not.
Right?
Let's just call a spade a spade.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like Christmas morning every day, and I could imagine it's better. And all of a sudden, you're sitting in your office, or it's worse. You get a text message, and there's your big deer.
I'm gonna have to outlaw that at the office, Zach. No Cuddeback text while you're at work.
Yeah,
productivity would be on an all-time roll.
I can't
One
wait.
email a day.
Well, and friggin' Eggert's he's got one set up in Oklahoma right now.
Okay.
And he's been showing. He'll come to work one day and he's like, "Oh my god!" And he's got a giant.
Yeah.
In some.
Is that the one with like those 10-inch brow tines or whatever?
Well, so actually, let me specify. Then he's got two giants because he's got that one with the huge brow tine, but then he's got that one where it's got a goofy left side. But the mass on that thing, I know it's velvet. It's a little tougher to tell, but it looks like he's got like 2 beer cans strapped around his head. It's insane. But he's getting again. That's proving the point. Like that camera is in Oklahoma right now. And he's getting the messages back here in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And I think he was going to send some out to Kansas as well.
Yeah, he was talking about moving them. They're moving them later this week, yep. And then I'll have a couple different spots. And that's the beauty of it, right, is that it just makes it super handy for no matter where you are, you can get the pictures now, right? That's the advantage of that cellular piece.
Well, and you live up north, like in your property, and you have the first time you came in talking about this, you had your setup right on your desk at home.
Yeah, so I've had, up until last fall, I would just have a camera or a home unit sitting on my desk, and I'd be sitting there working, and I could pull that card whenever I want.
Right.
It could be 10 times a day, and you're not screwing it up.
That's what I do. Is I've got one in my cabin, so I just pull a card out of it.
That's nice.
Since we came with the cellular, and I was telling a guy this last night on the phone. Even though I live I've got cameras in several different spots, but even though I live on one of the properties I hunt, I still do the cell thing at home because I get them when they're there.
Right away.
So I get the picture right away. And the one thing that you don't realize is when you're waiting until the morning, or even if you're waiting once a week or whatever to pull that card, you're not absorbing like what's actually going on at the time, like weather, whatever. You know what I mean? So you may be sitting there and all of a sudden you get an email and there's 10 pictures and it's like October 26th, and then you realize, well, okay, the weather changed or there's a front coming through or whatever, and it starts to make sense. Okay, this is what's going on.
Yep.
Whereas if you wait and pull the card, now you're looking at the date, you're looking at the time, and then you're trying to like patch it all together. There's a bunch of guys that have come out with software to try to manage people's photos, but in your head, if you're if that image is coming to your phone, 3 times a day or whatever, and you're seeing what's going on, you're absorbing all that a lot better. So to me, the $15 or $10 a month is totally worth it to me, even at home. Right. I don't even want to pull the card anymore.
Right.
I'm not saying that's not a good way to do it.
Yep.
But once you get kind of hooked on that whole cellular thing, you're not going back.
So what are the prices of the cellular plans? Do you know that off the top of your head?
Yep. So they start at, and it's like Netflix or Amazon Prime, right? Where if you want to buy an annual plan, it's a discount. If you do monthly where you want to turn it on and off, then you have a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
So they can range anywhere from $10 a month up to $40 a month. $40 a month being unlimited monthly, which is the most expensive, but it gives you that flexibility to turn them on and off. Certainly, as a guy builds his network larger and you get up to 16 cameras, and if you're on a good property where you're taking a fair amount of pictures, you might need that.
Right.
What we're seeing is that there's a lot of people that are just doing annual plans now because, you know, they like to see when the bucks drop their horns. They like to see when the fawns pop up.
Sure.
They like to see when the turkeys and whatever else you're getting. So, you know, with the whole land management and feeding deer and food plots, it all kind of goes hand in hand where you get a lot of guys that seem like they just want to be attached to their property all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say it's more property management.
Yeah.
Well, even you could use it as a security camera too. You could throw it by your cabin
100%.
or whatever.
And if you're doing 9
Can you
months,
queue up some of those pictures?
Which ones? Pile of them.
Well, part of it is I want to go back to. I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want because I know like John was talking about like the conditions.
Sure.
Well, some of the pictures all the pictures show like the time, the temperature, all that kind of stuff. This even has the cloudy overcast type thing on there, don't they?
Well, some of that has that, but yeah, I mean, yeah, he'll show the differences on there. But what I was going to say on the plans, if you're going to run them 9 months, then you might as well buy the yearly plan,
right?
Because it's basically the same. If you're only going to run it, some guys like to run it seems like the kickoff for trail camera use is at the week after July 4th. Every year, like my phone blows up, it just goes crazy. So if you're only going to run it from July until the end of December or whenever the season ends in your area, then the month to month makes sense. But if you're a turkey hunter, you know, and I sent you some pictures the other day, I mean, some turkeys died because of cutting link this year.
Right.
Absolutely, in my area.
Yeah.
There's no question. So, you know, you end up using it in April and May, and then all of a sudden, like Dan said, you want to see the fawns or whatever in June. Well, you know what? I'm just going to run it all year.
Just run it all year.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through some of, I know we don't have all the cameras right here in front of us, but
I think we got them all.
Okay, so then what is the base kind of setup, and then you just go from there on it. What are some of the stuff we have in front of us here?
Well, so this camera here is the one that it sells the most, right? It was the one that we brought out in a 4-pack, and so that's been appealing to the masses, right? Because if you're going to go with Cuddelink where you're going to have a network, you're probably not going to buy one camera. So do you buy 2? Do you buy 4? Well, we gave a price break for buying 4. So a lot of people come in, buy the 4-pack, and then that gets them started. They build their original network. And as I pointed out, any camera could be your home, and any camera could be a remote. So in the menu, you just set home, and then you're good to go.
And which one is that?
That's the J series.
That's the J series.
And we make that in 2 flash modules. You have a IR and you have a black flash. And so this one here is the same camera, just with the D battery pack on it. And so, you know, one of the things that we just address.
Is this the battery pack?
That is, yep.
Oh, okay.
So that camera there, you just take these 4 screws off the back, you put that on, and you screw.
I'm gonna have to upgrade because I got this big honking.
and then
sales call.
Damn it!
Now you converted it from a AA battery camera to a D battery camera.
Yep.
You know, and one thing I will just address it, you know, up front right out of the gate, you know, is that communication between the cameras where they're saying, hey, do you have any pictures? Do you have any pictures? It uses battery.
Yep.
It's the advantage of the system, but it is also causes an effect.
Yep.
And so, you know, it's explainable. If we turned off the communication, those cameras would last all year, but because of that communication, they don't. So because of that, we've come out with a multitude of power options. And so, like Brian pointed out, there's this style.
Does that work with this?
Yeah, you actually could. Yeah, in the future, we have in about 3 weeks.
Future.
Yeah, there's a cable.
I'm always pushing that, aren't I? Every time he's in here, I'm like, can we do this? Maybe.
Then we've got, you know, that D battery pack is real popular for that particular camera. But most of the power stuff that we're doing now is really to be all universal, so that the idea is that you can mix and match it with any device we have. And we've got solar, and that works super duper for places where you've got good sun. Those cameras will run basically indefinitely. From that camera, the J series, we go to the G series, which is this model here. This runs natively on D batteries right off the bat. So you get some better battery usage because of those D battery batteries being more efficient. This also has 4 different flash options. So instead of the 2, it says 4. So daytime photos between the two cameras will be about the same. Nighttime photos on this guy will be enhanced. There's just more options available. So if you want to shoot out further into a field, you want to have nighttime color photos. There's still a big group of guys that like to get nighttime color photos.
Yep.
We have a lot more options there.
So since we're talking about the flash and not flash, what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think flash really spooked deer?
No. I would say, from my opinion, you know, the one that's the color nighttime photos, I wouldn't necessarily use that on a scrape,
right,
personally, but, you know, on a field edge without a problem. I mean, there's just too many guys sending in pictures of giant bucks that are not alert with those cameras, you know, and maybe it's, you know, I know there's a lot of people that think the black flash, but, you know, everybody on our team is using probably the IR just because you're going to get a better nighttime photo with reaching out a little bit further and the detail that you get. So the black flash, you know, I've got some black flash that I employ too just because I'm Cuddeback and we need to know how they all work. But in those scenarios, I just try and keep those closer shots, you know. So those are definitely the ones I use, like on a scrape or something, like on a trail where I know they're coming real close to the camera.
Okay.
People have their opinions on that.
Right.
And it's very hard to change it.
It really is.
So, I mean, even if you show them proof, like I've got the largest deer, this is kind of like Brian's story, largest deer I ever hunted on my property, I didn't get them, right? But I got a lot of pictures of them. And
that's a close second.
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's catch and release.
I have pictures of that deer, and I wish I would have sent them to you ahead of time. But it was for Wisconsin. It was a very large, 184-inch buck. Right? Okay,
that's not kind of large.
Dude, for Wisconsin, I love it.
Yeah,
for Wisconsin. Wasn't the state record like 182 for a while there?
I don't know. I mean, this is non-typical. You know, he had a bunch of stickers and all that stuff. But anyways,
that's not sugar.
He was on my property.
Average. Yeah. I don't know why you're wasting your time.
Yeah. I'm not going to give the big cry me because there's whole.
So somebody shot this deer?
Yeah, a neighbor gal shot it, which I'm super happy for.
Right.
So
sounds like you are.
Sure you are.
Yeah, not as happy as if I would have got it. But anyways, I have pictures of that buck. Okay, on I had it like Dan was saying. I use white flash a lot, so I had a white flash on a scrape, and then 20 feet away I had an IR on a scrape. Right.
Yep.
So he was hitting that scrape pretty much every night. I have a whole sequence of images of that buck coming to the scrape, getting flashed, walking away, bedding down, actually sleeping and getting flashed because another deer would walk in between him and the camera.
Right.
Okay, he's got his eyes closed, he's sitting there sleeping, he gets flashed multiple times, right? Gets up, comes back to the scrape.
Really?
Works the scrape again, and just go on and on and on. Okay, so then he goes over to the IR one, but there's no difference in reaction between that deer. I will say there's individual deer that, just like people, that have different preferences.
I was just going to say, I think it comes down to each deer.
Yeah.
Right.
Some deer don't like it.
But to say that the big bucks don't like flash or they don't like IR and the does don't care or whatever, that's just not the case.
Well, and like some of the pictures you guys sent us, those are the white flash pictures over scrapes.
Yeah. Sure.
And they look phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some awesome pictures. We do have a question on here. Kendra wants to know, how reliable is the solar power in like dark pines?
I think it's going to be, you got to have sun, right?
You got to have sun, right?
Yeah, there's, in that scenario, you'd be better off running a battery option.
The battery backpack option?
Yep.
See, and that's what I've got. I've got real thick, and I've got a real canopy everywhere. So I got the D batteries in the camera and the Ds in. Well, you actually got batteries in there, and the Ds in that thing, and they run for 4 or 5 months with that.
So are they coming out with a longer cord for the solar power? So if anybody wanted to, they could get it up a little bit higher where there is,
or even move it on a different tree or something.
There's definitely we have not come out with a longer cord yet. There's definitely guys doing it because it's not it's not like it's some tricky cord. They're not like any technology built in the cord. So there's definitely some guys that have fashioned that. We're trying to address, as we see those kind of needs, we try to, like this year, there's still some guys with other systems that, put like car batteries on the cameras. Yep. So we have the connectors that they'll be able to do. We'll have a cable that has that connector. So if a guy wants to do that, he could do it. I mean, we're really trying to make it where whatever you want to do, we'll try to make it happen. We've not addressed that cable issue yet, but maybe we will, but there's definitely guys figuring it out.
Well, and if you can do it yourself, then there's
there's definitely guys doing it because we've got guys send us stuff, and you can see. I mean, it's pretty crazy how, there's guys getting pretty ingenious on their
redneck
creativity.
ingenuity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd say the ideal
I was
situation.
just sitting here as soon as you said car batteries. I was just sitting here. I'm like, well, I just built those cell devices. I could probably get one to run for about 2 years.
Hooking it up to the lithium batteries, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, the solar ideally would be, the ideal situation would be something like a food plot where you can face that south.
Right. Yep.
And then it's going to get, 8, 9 hours, 10,
Yep.
even the fall, sunlight. So there's some people that have had success in maybe a little more marginal than that, but you need sun. I mean, the nice thing is we got other options, and there's even another option coming that you guys will have called the dual power bank that will allow you to run on solar and then switch to alkaline and then switch back to solar. So
all by your remotely?
No, it's smart. It actually is built into it. So, and that
so it doesn't
one
actually charge the batteries. It just runs.
No, it will. So it's got dual banks.
Okay.
So someone could, like in her scenario, she could either use this maybe 2 ways. She could put alkaline in both sides, and then she would have dual banks. That one would be the remote, it'd run on the primary, and then when that got done, it would switch over, and then she could go out and switch the batteries again. Or you could run rechargeables in the one side and then alkaline in the second side. That's going to work for people if you had a sun scenario where you were getting some sun but not enough sun. That would be a workable option, because then those alkalines would kick in when it didn't have sun. If you don't have any sun, the solar's not going to work at all. Like you got to be able to get
term solar.
Yeah, and so but and there are some people that maybe early on would have a tougher time with the foliage up, and then when the
it gets
leaves,
better as the foliage. Yeah. But the daylight's shorter then too as well. So I mean, usually when you want it. And now, like John, I don't want to give away too much, but you hunt Buffalo County, right?
Yeah. In the last few years,
and you've been running it over there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some super steep ridges and everything over there.
Yeah, the beauty. I mean, Dan touched on it earlier, but the beauty of the Cuddelink system is that it really doesn't matter what your situation is. There's a way to make it work. Whereas everything else, there's not a way to make it work in every situation. So, as an example, over in the bluff country in western Wisconsin or whatever, typically cell service is good up on top of the ridge and 0 on the bottom.
Yep.
So in that situation over there, we would run the dual cell on the very top of the ridge, and last year I had it in one of my best stands. I just had it in the tree stand with me, up above me. And then all the remote cameras, there were some of them on top of the ridge as well, but all of them were down below where you can't get a text out, you can't get anything out there.
Wow.
And then they would all send to the top, and then I would get them all. So even a guy that was using conventional cell, if he had the money and the wherewithal for 10 of them, he still would never get them all to work on the entire property, but this you can.
Huh.
So that's an instance, where it would work. There really hasn't been a situation where somebody's been able to come to us and say, well, we can't get it to work. There is some areas where there's 0 cell service.
Right.
But there's not a lot of farms where there isn't at least one spot on the farm that you've got some kind of cell service.
So when you're employing the cameras, what's that process look like? I mean, when you're setting them up, kind of, you don't have to go through start to finish of it, but what would you do when you're going out and starting yours up for the first time?
Yep. One thing that you want to think about is your property. So if you're doing the SD home where you're going to pull the single card, obviously you're going to put that somewhere where it's accessible, so you're not going into your property and messing it up. And then you're going to build your network off of that. If you're on cellular, then it'd be a little bit different, because now you're not ever going to go to that camera. So if it was my property, I would try to put that in the center, and ideally I would make it into more like a wagon wheel, so that those cameras are having to pass through as
shortest distance.
Yeah, as few cameras as possible to get back to the home camera. The reality is that if somebody had, a long, skinny property and they needed to do them in a line, you could do that, but I would still try to put the home more in the center and build off of it, so you weren't, the worst case scenario would be having the home on one end and going all the way to the cameras, because those cameras on the far end got to come and send the images all the way through. It'll work, it's just not as efficient. So
and that's how mine is.
So you have yours.
Well, I don't have the cell, so the only way for me to pull a card easy is to put that one by my cabin.
Right.
So it's got to come. I mean, I got a couple of the cameras are going through like 6 or 7 hops to get back.
Yep.
Because it'll tell you right there's that
on
one
the
screen.
report.
You can look right on the report on how many hops the cameras are going through.
Yeah.
I mean, it works. Like you said, it works, but I can also tell the battery life on some of those other cameras that have to hopping all the time aren't as good as the other ones as well. Just because they're doing more work. I mean,
Right.
Yes. Nope. And it's, I mean, you nailed it. And so, like I said, if it's an ideal scenario, I would do it, like a wagon wheel, because that works best. And the cell obviously allows that to be a lot more flexible, provided you have cell coverage sort of around in the middle. So you're going to set that as your home, and that's easy. It's just in the menu. You pick home, or you can pick remote. And so you pick home, and at that point, I'm going to take the remote cameras. I'm going to put them on the remote. I've got to make them all on the same channel.
I was just going to say, all you got to do is make sure they're on the right channel.
Yeah. And here in Wisconsin, John and I tell people all the time, try to not pick 4 and 12, because everybody likes to pick 4 and 12.
How many channel options are there?
There's 16 channel options. Yep. So if your neighbor was running
Just in case anybody
Cuddeback,
didn't know, that's because of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers.
That's right.
In case you're not a Packer fan.
Yeah, or one, the default too. So
okay.
Stay away from those.
So like
three
if you picked the number your neighbor was using, you'd be picking up his pictures
you might
too?
pick up some pictures, and so then it's simple. You just go in and change the channel, and you're good, and you'd be back to where you're private, and everything's great. So you
have to change that on each camera then. So like if you
I was just,
they all need.
That was my next question. Is that ever something you guys were thinking about?
Remotely being able to change
able to like change a setting on here and have it, because they're networked, having that you'd be able to trickle through.
Well, so let's say here I'm gonna say,
because I'll tell you what, I did that. I had the whole thing set up, and then you're sitting here. I'm like, okay, what was the last camera number? Because if you have camera IDs that are the same, you got to keep track of that. Which I mean, 1 through 15 is not that hard, but you still have to do it. And then it's like, well, I had one where I forgot the channel, or I changed it or something, and
you
had to go back through and check all 15 cameras to fix it.
Right.
Well, let's just say
it was all my fault, right?
Right.
I don't like talking about stuff that we
fair enough.
aren't doing, but if I wink at you and the camera doesn't see it, then we're good, right?
All have to be on the same channel. All need their own number, and then you can name them. So Matt's Money Stand, John's Big Oak, whatever. So that gives you, and you'd think, you'd recognize it, but it's pretty handy to name each one.
For sure.
Yeah.
Especially when you start looking at 15 cameras and you get towards the season, so you go from that springtime where it's like one picture every 10 seconds. Yeah. Now it's I want everything.
Yeah. Right.
There's a lot of pictures.
Yeah. Right. What about the video capabilities of it all? I mean, it has that same capability. Can you have like one camera doing video and then all the rest doing stills?
Well, this is where you have to give and take, right? When you want something. So because we're moving around files, and those files are large files, now granted we are using a lower res, which you guys have got samples, and I'm sure he's going to put some of those up so people can see them. But the Cuddelink images are definitely more than adequate for defining, hey, is this a buck I want to shoot? Is this an older buck or not? From scouting purposes. But it is a lower res. And the reason why we do that is because, moving around that much data, it takes a lot of work. Video files would be larger, so we can't move video files. They're just too big.
Okay.
You can go in and turn off Cuddelink on a camera and video, but you're not going to be able to video and then transmit the video. So, and that's really fairly common with most of the guys that are transmitting stuff. You're going to give and take here. So, the getting the real-time data is probably more valuable than worrying about the video.
Video doesn't do anything for me personally. Right. I'd rather get the pictures
But like on a scrape scenario, that would be video is cool.
Right, but you could turn on the hyper whatever. I mean, it's taking a picture every 10th of a second or whatever. It's almost like a flip book.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, if a guy really wanted to do video, he'd probably be better off just mixing in a conventional camera, by the network, so that the network was still getting the photos, but you had a video that if you wanted to go pull that card. But then you're getting back into where now you got to go pull the card and all that. So,
it defeats the purpose.
Yeah. So, this is where it's like a reward justification kind of thing. What do you do? So, just systems not built to pass along that much data.
I was going to say, Adam on here says the smart battery pack sounds awesome. Sounds great. And then Sean says he's had 8 cameras running since last year and just deployed solar on all of them. So
yeah, and
he obviously must like the system.
The solar has exploded here in the last few months, I would say. Man, it just went crazy where all the retailers started buying them. The people were looking for them. It's gotten crazy. So we've got a bunch coming in here as we move into the season, the main thrust of the season, so we can address that. one thing back to the setup of the camera, since you asked that, so we kind of close the loop. So we set the home, we set the remotes. When we set the remotes, it's important that there's a signal strength inside that camera, and we're going to want to run that so that we can verify that the connectivity back to that home is good.
Yep.
The system figures itself out on whether it needs to go to the home or through another camera. It takes care of that. You don't have to define that as a user, but you just need to run that signal test. You can move the cameras, you can reposition cameras, but each time you do that, because they're all kind of working together, you just want to take the 1 minute that it takes to run that signal test. And as long as you keep that above a 20, you're golden.
You're good to go.
Yep, because you're going to see the camera's signal strength will bounce. You'll see it on your report. Yep. Brian referenced that report, which is really helpful because it gives you a lot of data about, you know, the name of the camera and
battery life,
images is your SD card getting full, you know, all that kind of stuff. Is your queue backing up so that we would know that, hey, there's something going on here we need to check out, whatever it is. So that's all really helpful, but it's going to show you those links, and, you know, you just want to try to keep that all moving so that you know, like,
now, is there an advantage to running the signal strength, or is it just to make sure it's working before you leave?
Just to make sure it's working.
I didn't know if that helped the system or something.
The thing is, you know, like I said, you'll see, you know, in pines it'll go further. In swamp it'll go less, right? So the density will make a difference. If it's a foggy night, it might knock the signal down a little bit. So that 20 threshold gives us a little bit of cushion that, you know, the reality is worst case scenario, if a guy goes out and he's like, I really want to put the camera right here, and it's an 8, he can do that. And as long as you ran the test that day and it was an 8, it'll transmit. But it might happen that a day it drops off the network.
No, that's 8 out of 100, correct? Or 99?
99, right.
Yeah,
and so it would transmit, but if it fell off the network, it's still taking pictures, it's still doing its thing, and then when it pops back on, it's going to send those pictures. Obviously, when you get into the main part of the season where you are getting a lot of pictures, like you said, you can build up a queue. So, you know, in those scenarios, just keep it above 20, then you're good.
You know, one thing to note about the signal strength, so we're in the middle of the time of the year when it's taxing the signal strength the most. So we were just talking about
because of all the foliage, right?
Right, the foliage and actually like a high humidity dew point can restrict it some. So if you're going to go out Friday and it's supposed to be 95 here and 80 dew point, your signal is going to be lower than it would be on November 1st when it's 35 and there's.
I didn't know dew point had anything to do with it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So what I tell people is when you're doing what Dan says, you know, let's just say you're going to run 10 cameras and you set your home up, and now you can power all the 10 or the 9 remotes up.
Yep.
Put them on the signal, you know, settings so that you know what it is, and you can just jump on the 4-wheeler or put them in your backpack and start going.
Yep.
And then as you set them, you can be looking at it. But if you can get good connectivity in conditions like this, when you got standing corn, you know, high humidity, high heat, it's only going to get better.
Right.
So, you know, July and August are very, you know, taxing on that signal, you know. So when you get to September, when the leaves come off, your strength will just go right through the roof. Yeah.
And I've seen that.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, guys can help themselves out too. I mean, you know, generally speaking, I would say hanging your cameras a little higher is better so that you're not right in the face of the deer. It also helps with that strength. If you keep it low, there's guys I've seen hang them low, and you know, I had a guy that was having. Signal was marginal on some cameras, and I said, hey, have you tried hanging them a little higher? He did, and it you know, helped a lot, you know. Yep. And so things like that you know, you can do, and we're trying to get those all on videos and online and on Facebook videos.
Is there any other
and things,
antenna options?
Nope, just
I was watching for the wink.
Well, no, I didn't know. Well, no, I just
no
didn't know.
Yeah.
There's a million antennas.
Right.
You got Yagi antennas, and I didn't know if they made an adapter that could screw in or.
No, not right now.
Okay.
Again, you know, I have heard of some guys doing some things. There's a guy I know that mounts his on top of a grain bin, like his home on top of a grain bin to get it above everything. And so,
that's smart.
Like I said, there's some guys that get creative out there, as you said, redneck ingenuity. But one thing on the antennas I will talk about, because it might reference relative to your property, Brian, is that these are the high gain antennas on top of this dual cell. Last year we were using a more of a single antenna, and you'll notice ours have 2. Some companies are only running 1. I believe that the standard is when you go to like Verizon and AT&T and work on the certification, they're going to demand that you have 2. When a camera only has 1, that means they've buried 1 inside the camera. So we left them both out because they perform better,
so they can
right?
do their job.
And then in our case, we've got the high gain, and so the property I probably hunt not real far from where you are.
Okay.
And on my phone, it was, and on Verizon, it said, roaming. And I took the new dual cell out there, connected, not a problem. I walked all over the property, ran the test.
Well, maybe
connect. Yeah, it might be worth a shot because
what's this antenna for?
That's
network?
the Cuddeback. Yep. So any of the ones that have a single antenna, those are the Cuddeback cameras that's what allows them to talk to each other. And as, one thing we didn't talk about when we were talking about the cameras, if you have, this camera, you could have, 5 of these and 3 of these and 1 of those. Any Cuddeback camera now and into the future will be able to talk to each other. And so, that's a big deal that they're not going to wipe out their network, in a couple of years. Any upgrades we do, they'll still be able to utilize those cameras. But definitely these antennas have made a difference. And we're getting much better performance on places that, quite frankly, I didn't know that we'd, actually get cell connectivity.
So what we did is we tackled one of the when we perused Cuddeback's website, you see all the frequently asked questions and all that kind of stuff. So we tackled one of the big ones, battery life, right? That's one of the questions you guys get a lot, probably at the office. The next one would be the picture resolution. So I just messaged Zach, and Zach's going to bring up some of those pictures you sent us on the debate of the good or the bad, the high res, the low res. But while he's queuing those up, I want to talk about what I got here. I got a secret little present right now. So at the Real Shot, we released the salmon catalog, and then what we did is we realized that was awesome and people liked it. So then what we did is we made a fall whitetail catalog. And this is going to be the start of the series of we're going to try to do 3 to 4 of these a season. And while Zach's getting these pictures queued up, so Megan Radke put a ton of time and energy and everything into this. So today is the official launch of the Whitetail catalog. It's going to be available not only online but in store. And if we might drop it in some of the packages that people are getting. But if you page through this thing, it's going to have a breakdown of the the store, some of the products that we recommend. And if you go through it, not too far into it, it talks about the Cuddeback stuff. It talks about scent elimination, bows. This is another product that you rep, a little off topic of not Cuddeback, but what is this thing all about? This is like a rechargeable...
Yeah, clothing. Heated clothing, something you probably won't need on Friday.
Right. You're not going to want to...
But you might need it 6 months from now.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So today's the official launch of this. It's going to be on our website with the flip book and everything like that. It's just going to be the Whitetail catalog, and then we're going to roll right into winter. We're going to she's going to work shortly on getting the ice fishing one going out, and then spring fishing again and stuff like that. So this is exciting for us. I mean, we never thought, Brian, did you ever think we'd go the catalog route?
I don't know. Printing's in my family's background, so I've always liked it. It's just a matter of if it was going to turn into sales or not, I guess, to be honest.
Right.
I question the centerfold in this catalog.
Look at that guy. He's got this hanging in his house.
For sure. Oh, for sure.
See, when we first
talked...
if
anybody doesn't know, that's Matt Egger.
That's our manager.
Our archery guy.
Hey, that's his updated Facebook picture.
It is.
So
it is.
yeah.
Zach took this picture.
I
think the next one, though, like we've talked about this, the centerfold is going to have to go this way in the next one.
We did. We talked about that.
We talked about
it. Can it be a trifold? We need 3 pages that just
that's what I'm saying, dude.
Pop it down and then one more.
I just think it...
Old
For
school.
some reason, as guys, we have the tendency to look at a magazine like this.
Why? Why, Matt? Why?
It's almost like we grew up doing it.
Yeah. So, but no, I just wanted to take a little break here. These guys have all this awesome information on the Cuddeback stuff.
I want to talk. Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead.
No, are you not done?
With this?
Yeah.
So, today's the first day of the Whitetail catalog. Look for it on the website as well. Am I done now?
I was trying to sell Cuddeback stuff.
Okay, I know. I just wanted to... Just before.
No, it's awesome. I agree. It's really awesome.
So, anyways.
So, question about the cell service, cell reception stuff. I got a point here in a second. What is the minimum upload that you think you need in order for that to work efficiently?
It should be LTE, an LTE connection.
Are you talking like 2 meg, 3 meg, 1 meg?
I'm not sure I'm following you.
Oh, no, it's just in the upload speed, right? So LTE can go anywhere from...
as long as it's LTE, you'll be, because again, remember...
What we typically tell people is if they can sit at a location with their phone and upload an image and a text.
Okay, perfect.
Or an email, it's more than likely
it's going to work.
Awesome.
You know, because like Dan said, this
and probably
is
better
doing
because
better.
it's got the antenna.
It's actually better because, like I said, on my phone, I mean, I couldn't send a text, you know, or
Well,
it might do a
that's
thing
where I
where
was going with it because I'm big into, we do a lot of live stuff, so I'm real big into cell coverage.
Yeah.
And there's a couple apps you can download. One's called Speed Test and one's called Coverage Map.
Right.
And you can actually go walk around your property and it'll show you the speed of your internet of your cell connection where you are. So I was just trying to see if there was a minimum of a half a megasecond type of deal that'll work, or if you really want, you know what I mean? Because like for us to do video live, we got to have at least 2 megaseconds to go do that.
Yep.
Obviously, pictures is a lot less than that.
Just because you can get a text out, you know, the words, doesn't mean that you can get an image. So I mean, people, I can text there. Well, you know, how long does it take the text to go?
Right.
You know, that's
kind of what I was asking is if you had a minimum speed of this speed will work really efficiently.
I'm sure
this
that
speed,
is.
You know, kind of like your signal strength.
I don't. I'd have to ask one of our high-tech guys. I mean, the camera has a test on it so that you can actually run the test.
Well, I guess I was trying to say if a guy's on the fence, will this work for me? There's these free apps they could download and go test it.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
And I wish they, you know, the reality is.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's good, man.
That's just what I do.
You're allowed to punch him if you want.
I've never been asked that. Never been asked that one, so it's all good. You know, it makes you think outside the box. So I'll have to go back and ask. But I mean, the camera.
You want to keep doing that? Just spend like a day with me. We're all.
Oh, it is. It's nuts. Like he'll be riding along and be like, cell phone reception sucks right here. I'm only downloading at 2.7. I'm like, what? In English, please come back to the.
Well, we've done so well with this live on the fly stuff, and it's all based on cell coverage, right? So I just thought that'd be a great way to try to help sell this.
No, it's a good
point. Well, if Dan finds out, he can let me know, and then or John know.
Because these apps are all free. There's a bunch of apps on the phone that are free. They're super easy to use and read, and it's like it looks like a little speedometer. It just tells you how fast your connection is.
Now, have you found when you're doing that, Brian, that there's certain times of the day that it's different?
Oh, yeah, big time. Well, because cell service is all based on everybody that's using it because it's a shared connection with all of the people around.
Sure.
It's not a dedicated, like, you know, if you're on the Verizon tower, might be 1,000 people using it, right? Mm-hmm. So in the morning, it's going to be super crazy fast. At night, when everybody's at home streaming Netflix and stuff, it's obviously slower. Yep. So, yeah, it definitely varies based on.
It'd be interesting now to check that, like, Friday. What John was saying about with the humidity and everything.
Yeah,
like
for
that.
sure.
You just never know what's going to happen. I mean, you know, and that's so because of that, I'll ask for sure because it's a good point.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to put you on
it's all
the
good.
spot. I just thought it was.
Yeah, he is. That's
but just as a point to address how we do it is, you know, look, I'd rather them buy it.
It's a big investment for a guy,
sure,
right?
For sure.
If he's like, what do I do?
If they're convinced that, hey, you know, Cuddeback's the answer, and you know, being able to connect all these cameras and have one cell plan and makes sense for them, I'd rather them buy it. We do a 30-day guarantee.
Okay.
So if there's an issue, if they take it off their property, it doesn't work, we're going to take it back.
Awesome.
You know. Now the one thing is that if you guys in the store take it back, we got to get the camera back because we got to clear. Like when they go and set up their account and stuff, and it links to Verizon, we got to clear all that out of there before you can resell it again. But I would rather do it that way because I don't want anyone having a camera that you know isn't going to perform for them or anything. But the best way to do it, because like the other day we had a guy, he's in town and he's running the test and it's failing. His wife's on Verizon, her phone's connecting. And I'm like, what in the world? And so he just for the heck of it, he drove out to a Verizon tower, you know, and stood by it, and it passed. And I'm like, why is it, you know? And so I said, well, are you planning on putting the camera, you know, at your house? No, I'm planning on putting it on my hunting property. He went out there, and it connected out in the middle of nowhere. So it was just some kind of a weird Bermuda Triangle, you know, on the Verizon service at his house that it just would not work. Weird. But at the hunting property where he expected to be worse, it worked.
It was better.
So you just don't know until you get into that stuff. You know, one thing I do want to cover too on the cellular, this camera does not have to go as part of the network, right? And so, you know, one of our big advantages is the network. But if a guy is like, hey, you know, I only have, you know, $200 here, guys, to go out and buy a camera, great. Please buy our Cuddelink, and you can set it up as standalone camera. That's how Matt his cameras down in Oklahoma are running as standalones, where they're just taking pictures and sending it to them.
Just like a standard cell camera.
Yeah, and you still get all the benefits of the Cuddeback, you know, quarter-second trigger speed, the centering technology, the 20 megapixel, all the stuff that you get. And but the beauty is that next year or 2 years from now, and the guy has a little more money to work with, and he wants to add a camera, great, add the camera at that point. You could buy one, you could buy four, but you're not adding any cellular cost. And so I just want to make sure we cover that because I think there's guys that are saying, geez, you know, I mean, that Cuddelink thing sounds cool, but I don't want to run a network. Well,
perfect.
You don't have to run it.
You don't have to jump all the way in.
Right.
You can buy just this, see if you like it, and it's our best camera. So at $199, you guys are selling it for $199. It's the best camera that Cuddeback makes.
This thing is $199?
Yeah, $199.
Holy man, all that technology
so
on
the
this
equivalent
thing?
last year was $449.
Yeah.
That we had, you know,
Holy
and the equivalent in a lot of
That's
other brands
insane.
is $350
awesome.
to $400, $500. So
If I put it right here, it's
so
not
for
even very good.
$200, you can start with just that, like Dan said, and then you can grow as you go. You can buy one more of these, you can buy 4 more of these, you can buy 15 more of these. It really doesn't matter, but you can put one a year. So it's not like you have to go in whole hog and just, okay, now I got to spend $2,000 to get in this. You don't.
Right.
You know, and you guys got some other options.
Well,
you
and
know.
that's what I was going to say. I want to get to the pictures here because that's probably one of the. But like you guys from Cuddeback made the soft shell 4-pack right away, where it was 4 of these, right?
Correct.
Yep.
That was
4
the
of
number
these,
one seller last year.
and that was 4 cameras for $750.
Correct.
Yep.
And now these you can run as the home unit. You know, one of these would have to be the home unit and all that stuff. Then what we did is, off of John's suggestion, is we made a couple of exclusive Cuddeback TRS exclusives here. And, like, you know, the kits includes, well, let's just talk about, I think the better deal is, well, they're both phenomenal deals, but, like, the one we really are proud of is there's 4 Cuddelink dual cell starter cameras. So that's the 4-pack of these. And then you get the Cuddelink dual cell, which is that one.
So you guys made basically a 5-pack.
Yep.
So you've got 4 of these and 1 dual cell. So right out of the box, you can connect 5 cameras via cell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that normal retail on that would be $1,200. I don't know if we can do this or not, but we're selling it for $950.
Yeah. You just did.
We just did. I'm gonna get John's gonna pull me aside later on. And then the other one we got is we also built a kit with like some camera holders. So we have the Cuddelink dual cell starter kit.
4 of these. Yep.
The solar kit, one of the solar packs.
Yep.
We have some HME economy trail camera holders, 2 different styles of that, and then you get 2 8-gig SD cards.
Yep.
That normal retail is just about $10.90, and we got that one on sale for $800 as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, we got some other things, and then Cuddeback's got the Genius mounts and all that kind of stuff. And now I wanted to get into that with your point of getting it up higher. That's where this thing's going to come into play, right?
Not that one. That one. This one here.
Oh, there. Okay,
yep,
that one.
This one here.
This is a stake for
like
the ground.
it's
the opposite of high.
Well,
this is when you don't have
There is
higher.
there's adjustment.
Yeah, right, but I'm saying this is where you don't have a tree.
Right.
Edge of a food plot.
Right.
Yeah,
scrape,
and you know,
wall
you
scraping,
I mean,
tree
you know how it
is.
goes. There's some places where it's like, you know, I was in a guy's property. It was a giant trees, right? Every tree was giant. It's like, well, that's going to be a problem, you know, unless you get a custom strap or something.
Yep.
So those are handy. You know, they're easy, especially if you can put the solar mount on one side and put the camera on the other. And so that's really handy for.
Well, this would be handy to help you get it on the south side of or the north side of the
Can
field.
the solar
I guess.
pack attach to that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Solar
and then,
kit comes with its own Genius mount, and then that pole, the Genius post mount, has got multiple spots where you can locate
awesome.
other mounts. So you can put it on the back, the side. So wherever you are, you can get it on the south side.
I don't know if that's too high or too
Like
low.
I use those everywhere. Just
Everywhere.
because they're handy. I can move them really
Yeah.
fast. And
I don't. I like those a lot. I've got those in almost all mine too.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, we had to fix a bunch of them the last time we were up there.
that other mount here, this Ptl mount, so it tilts and it twists, so you can point it up, down, sideways, whatever you want to do with it. So, you know, there's just places, you know, if you take all the cameras come with a mount, and so you slide the camera into the mount. But, you know, if you're trying to angle for some reason, you might have to use a stick. And, hey, look, you can usually find one, but sometimes it falls out or whatever the case is. So,
and I found
those
that a
are
lot
handy,
of times
so.
if you try to strap a camera to a tree, for whatever reason, the tree's
It's
tilted
never-
back.
yeah, they don't
it's
all
never
grow.
forward.
Yeah,
No.
it's a pain
Then you're
in the
sitting there
butt.
looking for a twig to jam in the back
Yeah.
or whatever.
A lot of the guys that are sensitive to flash style,
We'll put
they'll
that up
run
higher.
that on a scrape
Yep.
and then face it down because it's a little less likely the deer's going to see.
And
that
you get
thing.
some cooler pictures that way too.
Yeah.
Some
security reasons. There's guys that put them up high and face them down because if somebody's walking along, they just can't, knock.
They're
off
not
the
picking
tree
it
or
as
whatever.
easy
right.
as stuff.
And you
yeah.
do got the
bear box.
bear
yep.
box for everything like that. That's capable of housing all the units and everything
There
like
was
that.
a question before. A guy asked if there's any kind of a protection plan on them. I guess he had I lost the the question, but he said he had a woodpecker destroy some camera. But that's where that would come in.
Well, he's probably...
Typically what's going on is the woodpecker's knocking out that lens right there, and we can take care of that.
You can.
Yeah, well, on a lot of, it's something, this is kind of cool.
He said his camera was trashed.
Well, let's talk about a couple things. Number one, let's talk general warranty. With any Cuddeback camera, it's a 1-year warranty. If they go online and register, which they want to do, then it takes it to a 2-year warranty. So obviously everybody should get a 2-year warranty. When you look at cameras, this little piece here is called a Fresnel lens. And a lot of our competitors, if that gets destroyed, that camera's going to have to go in the trash. They don't repair them and do anything. For us, that's like a $2 part.
Oh, nice.
So a guy can, and it is, for some reason, woodpeckers and things like to poke at those. If all that happened was that, we definitely could fix it.
Okay.
If it's something more than that, he would need to send the camera in and we could take a look at it.
Is that a piece he could fix by himself?
On this, yes. If it's
take
just
those-
this,
Yep,
just take those screws off and and he's good to go.
Well, there you go.
Bluebirds, too. Bluebirds really like
Why do they like picking at that?
Well,
have
bluebirds think
no
it's
idea.
a nest box because a lot of bluebird houses look
Right.
somewhat similar to these.
Yeah.
I've had tons of pictures of bluebirds like right in
Really?
front of them.
Yeah, they hang there. Yep.
Especially if you're putting it on the edge of a food plot or a pasture or
Right,
something like
right.
that. But well, that's awesome. So automatically, as soon as you register it online, it's incentive to do it. You get an additional year warranty with it.
Absolutely. And then we have, 5 years that we'll work with them on parts and stuff. So, it just comes into calling into telephone support and, let us know what you got as an issue and we'll help you out.
So that's the same thing. If somebody's out there setting up their camera, they can call you guys and
Absolutely.
you'll be right there and know that you can help them walk through the process.
And obviously in today's world with everybody just, digesting data and used to getting things on their phone, we've continued to build support, videos and things that are out there so that they can have access. There's a bunch of YouTube videos of setting up the cameras. We've got a YouTube video on how to do like a Gmail account on your phone so that it makes it super easy that you can get the pictures and pull them up quickly and you can save them into a folder. So whatever they need to do with a camera, I mean, we're trying to address it. And as people call, we've talked about some ideas that guys have. If somebody has a really cool idea, we're going to try to do a video on it because, hey, we want to share that. If somebody's come up with a best use practice, then we want to make sure that everybody has access to that.
Well, and we've had multiple customers come in because we buy used stuff. They'll sell us their old cameras so they can upgrade. I got one customer in particular. He'll constantly send me emails of his deer pictures off the Cuddelink system because he's so happy with it.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
And that's like because that's I don't know what we paid for his cameras. I can't remember what they were, but he's like, I'm ready to go to Cuddelink, but can you help me out? I got 5 of these X brands. Yeah, for sure. Because somebody's going to buy those other cameras.
Oh, for sure.
But the thing about it is everybody should be going to this Cuddelink world. It just makes so much sense, especially this one. What does this one retail for?
That one's $199.99, and then it's got the battery pack on there,
Right on
which is $25.
It's the same one that's in the 4-pack, just with that.
Yeah.
Just with that.
extra
Is this
detail.
in the 4? This is in the 4-pack? No.
It's this one.
Yep.
It's this camera with
With
the
this
D battery
option.
pack. We just did
okay.
that so everybody could see
See
kinda
what
how
it
that
looks like.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
I thought. Okay. Now it makes sense. So Zach, do you got some of those pictures?
I do.
So one of the things a lot of people say is like the picture quality is not that good. Explain why that is. Is because of
So, as a camera, you're gonna all cameras out there, kind of de facto standard, right? For today's trail cameras, 20 megapixel from a standard. But the reality is that when we're using Cuddelink, we're going to pass along a little bit lower res just because of that file size and the amount of data, right? Because now when if you're going cellular, even if you're not cellular, just the efficiency of how we can move pictures around, you just want to make it so we can maximize the throughput, right? And on cellular, it's more important because now you're paying for an actual data plan, right? So you want to maximize how that guy's investment's going. So if you look here at the pictures he's pulled up, on the left side, you get the Cuddeback photo. You see down in the right bottom corner there, the Cuddeback logo. That's the standard high-res 20 megapixel photo. The Cuddelink is on the right side, so it's got the little CL down there, so that's the differentiation. But same picture, I
It's
just,
grainy.
I mean,
they're grainier.
they're a little bit grainier, but
it's just a lower
there's no doubt
Yeah,
that a guy
that's still
is
a
like,
great quality
like,
photograph.
Well,
there.
the thing that I've done to eliminate that is I look at them either on my iPad or my iPhone or my phone because
Which
it
is what
shrinks
the
the
majority
size
of
of the
what people are
screen.
doing. Yeah.
Right. Well, it shrinks the size of the screen, so now those pixels that you lost. Sorry to get all techie, but those pixels that you lost by shrinking the photo size, it doesn't matter anymore because the screen's smaller. So it's a cleaner.
So
image.
if you bring it up on a huge monitor and you want to zoom in, of course. I mean, any trail camera picture does that as soon as you try to zoom in. But, I mean, that's the biggest misconception that people have is, the pictures. Well, you got to remember that the best picture is on the camera that took it, right?
The best picture is the mount on the wall. That's my thing with trail cam pictures. Like, it's great. It's a tool. But you don't print them out and frame them.
Unless you shoot that deer.
Well, right, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure,
but the beauty of that is that, and that's the thing, right? So each camera has an SD card. It's still taking those pictures. So if I killed the buck and I was like, man, this is cool. I want to make like some wall thing. That
yeah, like a little mural.
Then I'll go print the high-res picture and I got everything I need, But from a scouting purpose, that's really what these are for, is to figure out what's on your farm and when are they active and all that. There's no way that picture, but now granted, some of our competitors' low-res versions are worse, know, and I'm not saying anything about anybody, but that's our version.
I've had some other competitor cameras that you click through a nighttime picture and you're like, is that a buck or is that a doe? I can't tell. Yeah. I mean, obviously, if the deer's moving, it kind of distorts the picture a little bit. Zach, can you just click through? Because I just personally like to see the big deer that are on some of these.
Yep. No, I have these two pulled up, and then I have the daytime equivalent, so you can see the difference between nighttime and daytime.
Then if you could just go through some of the pictures that Dan sent us, because I mean there's some giants on there. Now these are
fun.
These are customers' pictures.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're not giving away anybody's.
No.
If
I'm
they
not.
give them to you have permission.
Yeah,
no, we have.
I'm not.
Permission.
You'll notice I didn't put up the coordinates of the GPS or anything.
Although you can search these people online.
Yeah, if you can find that tree, dude, you should probably be like some Army Ranger.
So here's another. This is a daytime photo
of a buck. Yep. So you got a beautiful buck there.
But that's the original.
The
picture.
left side is with the Cuddeback with the original picture. Right side is the lower res. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, from this purpose, I can't tell the difference.
If you look at it on a normal laptop or, like I said, the iPhone or any kind of a device screen, it'll be.
So
can't hardly tell the difference.
Well, and I wanted to make sure I shouted out to Brian. He said he's had the system set up since 2017, so he's been loving it. And did you say? Well, that wasn't him. You were saying you said somebody else.
No, that was somebody else that liked the battery pack deal.
So here,
thing. One thing is that let's just say. So we all agree. We all agree. Hey, look, that's more than adequate for what we need to do, right?
Yep.
But if it was a guy that was like, hey, I want that other picture. I want the other picture. You can get it with the Cuddeback system, but you just got to run that dual cell by itself, and then they can transmit whatever size image they want. Now they're going to use up more data to do that, just like you would on anybody else's cell cam, but a guy can do it. So you can still, even in our environment, a guy can get it done if that's what he wants to do. Because we've had some guys like, hey, that's what I want. It's just like the black flash, right? When John's talking about, you're going to have a hard time convincing a guy that believes black flash. Cool, that's why we make it, And if they want to only get the high res, then you can do that. But I think the majority of the people and the feedback we're getting from folks is that low res picture is more than adequate for scouting purposes of what they need to be doing.
Well, I mean,
for example, I ran it for 3 years. One time I went and got the high res image.
Really?
I've never done it.
Yeah. I don't even look. I mean, I just delete them on the thing. So the images are more than adequate to get what you need.
Can you go back one picture to the one where that was the nighttime picture of that buck walking? I'm waiting to see when it comes up.
It's up right now.
Okay. So that picture, that's a walking picture of a deer, and it's not distorted or anything. I mean, you can clearly see that deer's got a nice split on his G2. Yep. So, I mean, I was just saying the picture quality is really, really good. That's just a tanker there.
Yeah.
That one over
I think
the
it's
skirt.
actually its name.
Is it really?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's that one. That one's the one that he named Tank.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I was talking about. I mean, that deer is in motion right now, and that picture's not distorted at all whatsoever. So
no, and we didn't talk about in the cameras. There's a lot of flash technology. So these Gs that we talked about, where the nighttime photos are enhanced, there's some cool patented stuff that we're doing on the flash side that helps with that. But what we have to be careful of is in these cellular environments now, you still want to get good pictures, right? And Cuddeback's been known for having high quality stuff. That's why I said, hey, that quarter-second trigger speed, the centering technology, all the stuff that we put in there, that's a base in any camera we have. And so, you want to have something that's reliable from a battery life standpoint. You want to have something that's reliable from a communication standpoint. You want to have something that's going to take good pictures. And then you need to have a way to actually get it easily. And, I think we've addressed all that through the process. Because if I'm a user, I don't want to have to be a rocket scientist to do this, Now,
with that cellular device, let's talk about the data cards.
Mm-hmm.
With that, does that delete the pictures after it sends them, or are they stored on there?
They're stored on there. They're stored on there. So
you definitely want to kind of make that somewhere you can get at it, right?
Reality is that. If on mine, because on the cellular one, I just don't plan on going back to it, really any time. I just put I got a 32 gigabyte card for,
Does
like
it store
$15.
all of the pictures that are coming to it, or just the
Yep.
ones it takes?
Nope, it's going to
So
store
all the Cuddelink pictures are
But
stored on
just
there.
keep in mind that if it was a regular camera taking regular pictures all the time, like you're talking like 32,000 pictures, but because these are those low res, it's some
tens and tens of thousands.
Okay.
More than most people would ever get in a hunting season.
Yeah.
So realistically, if somebody buys just this unit, they might have to go in there once, maybe twice a year to clear that camera and or change batteries.
Yeah, if you're running a battery accessory and you've got a decent sized card, you shouldn't have.
You shouldn't ever have to go in.
As I said earlier, as we were talking about these guys doing land management and wanting to keep their cameras out all year and stuff. So because of that, and knowing that our stuff is going to use some battery power, we've kind of tried to tailor the power options, and this is kind of a process because you start out here and then you kind of migrate. But where we're headed is all the power stuff will be universal, so that moving forward, you guys here in the store, or any customer that wants to walk in and buy something, he won't have to think about it. He can plug it into anything new. The other thing is that we're trying to address different price points. So if a guy is a guy that wants to put the cameras out in August, he wants to run them through December, he's got 4 months he's got to cover, he can do it affordably. On the flip side of that, if you got a guy that wants to run cameras all year long, we'll have power options that you can do that. Now, they're going to cost more for a guy to get them, but the reality is that guy's investing because he wants to do that, and that's really what you got to look at when you look at the consumers. Hey, there's guys that want to put the cameras out. I talked to a guy the other night. He just wants to run a camera in October, maybe part of November. That's all he wants to do.
Yep.
Cool. And then there's guys that, are those hardcore guys that are doing crazy things. And, as I've said about the system, there's really not anything we can't do. Just communicate with us, let us know what you need, and we'll help you out.
Yep. Yeah, I just watching some of these pictures, man.
Yeah.
Some huge deer.
You need to see somebody. You need help bad.
You
need help.
I think this is awesome.
You need help. No, the dude sits around and watches deer videos 24/7. It's unbelievable. You need help. You need to see somebody.
There's probably worse things he could be sitting around watching.
Listen, Mr. Fisherman. Come on already. We're always getting instant messages about this fishing lure, that fishing lure. And your wife made that comment on the last show anyways, you have a problem. Because she showed your garage with all your tackle boxes.
I do. I have an issue.
We're just hardcore everything, right? Well, I think we really accomplished that. This system is the system to go with. And with the deals between you right directly from the source and what the Real Shop put together, it's affordable. And I wasn't aware that this is $199 and it's a camera you can use for a cell phone camera, and then it's a starter. Then you just base off, say ask for Christmas presents, ask for gift cards to the Real Shot to come buy the soft pack with the 4 cameras in it. If you're going to recommend one piece, this is the one to start with.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Start with this bad boy here and then go from there on everything like that. But, we didn't have any outstanding questions. I think we hopefully answered a lot of the people's questions that they had out there on what's with the battery life, the picture quality, the basics of the units. The next thing would be just to get into the setups, but that's all on YouTube. That you can just call Cuddeback direct. You can talk to Dan or call John on his personal number. I'll post that on the links later on.
You wouldn't be the first guy to do that.
But yeah, it's really not that hard. If you just kind of understand the basis, and like I said, there's like 3 things that are unique from just taking a normal camera and putting it on a tree. There's 3 things. Those things literally take a minute and a half. You do that.
Yep.
You're good.
So basically, if Brian can do it, anybody can do
Absolutely.
it.
I'm not going there.
Absolutely.
Like John said earlier, I just went there, so we're all good to go. So again, hopefully we answered a lot of the questions. I thought this was very informative. I'm glad you guys could make it in today.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Now is the time to get your cameras out. I mean, we're actually a little bit late. I saw a couple of nice bucks already, but now if you haven't done it yet, now is the time to come in, get your cameras set up. You know, talk to Egger, talk to anybody on staff, or, you know, we can get you in touch with the right people if you do have any further questions right from Cuddeback themselves. But it is the time for trail camera madness right now, and that's why we changed our trail camera or our Trophy Tuesdays to Trail Cam Tuesdays. We're probably going to start going with some Whitetail Wednesday type stuff on our social media because it's switched. I mean, fishing's still going full-fledged.
For you. It's switched for you.
It is, dude. after yesterday when you guys sent me these pictures and Megan was using some of them, we just sat down there and we were looking and I was drooling. I'm like, oh, I just can't wait. Just can't wait.
Well, that's the fun part, right? And that's what this is supposed to be,
Yep.
right? I mean, at the end of the day, this stuff's supposed to be fun, and, you know, we're trying to help make it a little more fun. Hopefully we do, you know?
Right. So, again, thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Don't forget that today is the release of our Whitetail catalog here at The Real Shot. And then we'll post the links of the TRS exclusive Cuddeback kits that we built and everything like that. And they are on the website, just www.therealshot.com. So, again, thanks, guys, for making the time this morning. And we'll talk to everybody later.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.